Alright, what is up guys? In this video today, it's going to go over if you need to gain 10 pounds of muscle with zero fat gain, then you should definitely watch this video going into some lean bulking principles of what I'm about to do moving forward as I finish up my cutting phase. This is me, took this about a week ago, so finishing up my cutting phase right now. As you guys saw, I've been doing an aggressive cutting phase, kind of tapering off of this and then getting into what I'm about to go over in this video today. So let us dive in. No need for a big intro. So overview, what we're actually going to cover today, and really the main premises of a lean bulk is number one, mistakes to avoid, what to not do, getting into how to train properly, how to do proper nutrition, certain hormones you want to optimize for, how to optimize for nutrient partitioning, which is basically how you make a lean bulk, like staying lean in the process of bulking, then maximizing mTOR, so basically just muscle growth signal of the body. You obviously want to maximize the muscle growth in the lean bulk so you actually gain muscle in the process. It's the purpose of going into a bulking phase in the first place. And then cardio as well. You do want to do some cardio in your lean bulking phase. It's going to help with, again, nutrient partitioning, and you just don't want to be sedentary in any part of your fitness journey. So let us dive in. First off, the bulking mistakes. These are things that I used to do, mistakes I used to make that I definitely want to, I guess, warn you guys about that you don't want to do. First thing is eat big to get big. This is a mindset you don't really want to have. Dirty bulking is never going to be the answer. Like, you are going to gain muscle in this, but the whole purpose of a bulking phase is to maximize muscle growth and minimize fat gain. That's gonna be how you make the best long-term progress. Like, you can gain all the muscle in the world, but if you gain so much more fat, then it's going to take so long to cut down. So if you can maximize muscle growth with the least amount of fat gain, then that's obviously going to be the best approach. And I put these two pictures up just to show you guys things that I used to do in the past as well. So these are about 2 months apart, which is kind of crazy to think about. As you can see, I gained a good amount of fat here in only 2 months. I remember in this picture specifically, this was January 1st, 2025. This is kind of when I kind of want to say like locked in really on fitness and really started taking it a lot more seriously and learning more about these topics that I talk about now. But I remember just being super just self-conscious about how I looked, wasn't really confident in my body. Like, I knew I could do better, and I kind of like let myself go in a way that I thought like, okay, I'm bulking now, I can just let myself go and eat too much and eat big to get big. But obviously it's going to shoot yourself in the foot, and you just don't want to take this approach. You are going to regret this phase. Sometimes I just trip over my words, but yeah, next thing is not having structure with your bulk. So kind of like the eat big to get big, you want to have actual systems that you want to follow with your lifting, with your nutrition, like we're going to cover in this video, and not just winging it, like trying to guess what's good, always changing your approach. Have structure that you can just follow in a system that you can just repeat day after day, week after week to get the best results. And then also lazy planning. So like, you can have a loose system, you could say, but it's not going to be the best approach because you don't take everything into account. It doesn't take too much effort to apply these things. It just takes the applied knowledge of knowing what to do into a proper system, which is what I help you guys with, and then just applying that consistently over time. That's how you make the best progress for bulking, for cutting with anything. So again, you don't want to fall into the lazy, dirty bulk. This is kind of what I did now or in the past. So moving forward, definitely want to be more structured with your approach. So let's get into the actual things that you can do. So training, number one, track all of your lifts. So I really recommend the Strong app. I can pull this up on my phone to show you guys. But this is basically allows you to track every single thing that you do with your fitness and in the gym. Really, you can track your weights, your reps, and your sets, everything that you do with your training. And then you want to basically make sure that you're progressing with your lifts over time. Then muscle anatomy based exercise selection, really just a fancy way of saying choosing the best lifting exercises for the specific muscles that you want to hit. So for example, like, this sounds kind of obvious, but it is good to cover. Like, if you want to grow your chest, focusing on the incline for the upper chest, decline for the lower chest, and like really carving out your physique. A big thing with training that I've been focusing on is focusing more on the contrast of the muscle. This is kind of a different topic, but if you want to build an aesthetic physique, it's all about making contrast with the body. That's why muscles like abs are so aesthetic, because there's so much contrast in each individual muscle. That's why capped shoulders are aesthetic, because you're making contrast with the other muscles that you have, and then getting leaner is also going to show striations, more contrast. Really, the whole point of building an aesthetic physique is creating contrast with the muscles and the body that you have. Just a quick side note there. And then rep ranges that you want to follow. So to make progressive overload, you want to just follow a rep range and get stronger inside of this rep range. So for example, this is what I like to follow for myself. I do 6 to 8 rep range for most compound lifts, and then 8 to 10 for the isolations. So if I'm doing an incline chest press, I'm going to do a 6 to 8 rep range. If I fail at 8 reps, then I'm going to increase the weight, and it's going to naturally drop me down to 6 reps next time I go, and then I just keep adding reps until I hit 8 reps, and then I drop down back to 6, and I just keep doing that and progress overload pretty much indefinitely as I can. That you're doing that for every single exercise. Just you want to pick your rep range first, and then you find a weight that you fail inside of that, and then you hit the top of the rep range, drop yourself down as you increase weight, and you just repeat forever. That's basically how you make progressive overload in the gym. Next up is training intensity over your volume. So really big change that I've made with my training in the past like year and a half is doing 2 sets to failure, like genuinely to failure. You can't do a single other rep, and then lowering the volume again. Like you don't have to do too much, only doing 2 sets, which is really all you need. I used to do the approach of like 4 sets, 10 to 12 reps per exercise, which the rep range, it can work. It just depends on what specific exercise you're doing, but you don't need that many sets if you're going to train to failure, which is what I was doing. I was doing 4 sets to failure, and you just don't need that much. You're going to cut your saving time in half, and you're just going to have better, quicker workouts in the gym and still progress at an insane pace. Next up is progressive overload. Kind of going back to the rep ranges is just always make sure you're getting stronger, always making sure that you're actually progressing with your strength or your reps. Like you always want to have something that's moving forward and pretty much adding more stress to the body with your training. Then training splits. So this is pretty customized to what your actual goal is in the gym. So for example, for me, currently running a 3-day training split with chest, back, arms, shoulders, and then legs and abs. And then you can play around with it. Like that's kind of what I do for my clients is give you guys customized approaches to what your goal is. The training split is not going to be the most important, like just putting it out there. You can follow a lot of different training splits and get really good results. I don't want to like hyper focus on this one specific thing, but you do want to make sure that you're being consistent with one thing because you want to have consistency with a system in place that's going to be able to get you the best results. And then lastly is the rep quality. So actually getting proper good training reps when you're actually going to the gym. So focusing on the concentric, pausing in the isometric, and then the eccentric motion. So basically when you're going up in the lift is the concentric, pausing for about half a second to 1 second, and having a slow eccentric motion to get the best results with your training and just basically provide the best stimulus for your growth, which is what we're covering here, and just progressively overloading with this. Pretty simple. Like if you master all these things, then that's really all training is, boiled down to one page right here. Next up is we have nutrition. So for a bulk specifically, I like to do a very small surplus. I know some people cover like you can do main gaining, like maintenance phases, and still build muscle, which that is true. Like you can still build muscle even in a deficit, of course. But if you want to maximize your muscle growth and actually get bigger, like for the long run, then you do want to be in a surplus to actually like put more mass on the body. And if you can maximize nutrient partitioning as well, I'll cover that a little bit later in the video, then it's going to be basically directing all of this surplus to new muscle growth, and you're really not going to gain any fat in the process. Then focusing on the macronutrient structures. So I've covered this in other videos, pairing your carbs and your proteins pre and post workout, and then proteins and fats in the outside meals. Have other videos on specific meal structures based around your training, but that's like the general gist of it. And then micronutrient dense food. So as you can see here, this is some ground beef, this is some sweet potato, some of the most micronutrient dense foods that you can get. Only going to optimize energy, your vitality, hormones as well. We'll get into that as well. And really just giving you like the raw building block materials for your nutrition, because that's what food is for. Like food is to be nutritious for you. It's not just like to taste good. Obviously like these foods taste good. I don't want to tell you guys like I don't enjoy my food, because I do. Like whole foods are supposed to taste good. You don't want to like be super stuck in the hyper processed processed food loophole. That's, I used to do that as well, but this is going to be the best approach to just maximizing everything for yourself and just being healthy overall. Like health and fitness kind of tying together, kind of a side point, but health is very, very important, even in the long run. Like if you just want to gain muscle, you also want to be healthy as well in the process. And then meal structures and timing. So again, I have other videos on this, but it's very schedule based on when you're training and really what you have to do throughout the day. So like if you're working, let's say like 8 to 4, 9 to 5, it just depends on when you go to the gym, when you can have certain meals, when you can fit in your pre-workout meal. If it's going to be a little bit later, like let's say you have 2 hours before you can go to the gym, then that'd be a different approach than if it was like 45 minutes to 30 minutes before the gym. It's just timing it a little bit differently based on the food selection. And then post-workout is going to be the biggest meal of the day, highest carb meal of the day, getting the protein leucine threshold in, which we'll cover. And then the outside meals are the meal structure of the proteins and fats like I mentioned earlier. Then leucine threshold, hitting at least 35 to 40 grams of protein in every single meal. So don't think of like the meal frequency can be like 3 to 4 meals. I usually just do a 3 meal approach. It's going to be the simplest way to do this. So you can have, whatever the amount of protein is for you, then you just want to hit that. This should come pretty naturally. Like you don't want to have to hyper focus on this as well, but you do want to make it a rule that every time you have a meal, try to hit at least 30 to 40 grams of protein to hit the leucine threshold, which is going to cover the mTOR as well in a little bit. We'll get into that as well. Then food selection tying into the micronutrients. It's just picking the best foods to fit the macronutrient structures and hitting the calories as well. And then supplements, whatever you're deficient in, like whatever you're not getting with your micronutrients in your diet, then you can just supplement this. Biggest things for me is vitamin D. I'd pair that with K2 and then magnesium. Those are like the really big ones for me. Also do creatine. This is going to help with muscle growth. And then fish oil as well. If you're not getting some sort of salmon, sardines, any fatty fish like that, now definitely do some fish oil. Those are like the main 4 supplements that I take. And then you can get a little bit more like into the weeds of it, just depending on like what the goal is. Things for sleep as well. We can optimize that for you as well. But the main things is just covering the deficiencies you don't get from the micronutrients in the diets. Then next up we have hormones. So these are some of the key players. I have 2 other videos on this channel about specific hormones that you want to cover, like based on everything, not just muscle growth, but like energy, vitality, fat loss, everything. But these are like really the main 4 that you want to focus on for muscle growth specifically. So number 1, testosterone, and more importantly, free testosterone. IGF-1, insulin, timing this correctly, and then growth hormone as well. And these are like little tips and tricks that you can use to maximize these as well. So dietary cholesterol, like this kind of goes back to nutrition and food selection as well. So things like whole eggs, getting the egg yolks in, ground beef, red meat, shrimp is good for cholesterol, and then micronutrients for the testosterone. Big thing that I'm going to start adding, and you guys can do this as well, is raw milk and colostrum. So you can pick either one of these. I live in Michigan myself, so we don't really have too much raw milk. I was looking into it. You can like contact a local farmer and like I pretty much have to buy part of the cow because it's illegal for them to sell it to me, but I can just legally own the cow, so then I would just be having my own milk from there. So I'm gonna look into that and see how that works. I do have some farms near me through here. And then colostrum, this is a pretty popular supplement that you can just buy online. Not too much hassle there. And then L-reuteri yogurt. So I've made another video on this. Basically optimizing testosterone and gut health. Gut health is going to be pretty important. I haven't made a video on this, but can definitely, explain this a lot deeper because it is going to be important for really like your mood. Like that's going to be like one of the biggest things for gut health is how you feel, your energy, and then it also does affect fat loss, muscle growth, all these different things. And then sauna for the growth hormone as well. So I usually do like 1 to 2 times a week, usually on rest days, sometimes after a training day. It just depends on the day. Like if I go with friends, then we might hit the sauna for like 20-30 minutes. But yeah, just depends. You do want to get this in specifically for, I'd say at least once a week, 30 minutes. Like there's some other approaches and protocols to this, but definitely want to make sure you're getting this in to optimize for the growth hormone. Really big spikes in that as well. Next up is nutrient partitioning. So as I was saying earlier, this is what makes a lean bulk a lean bulk. So if you actually want to stay lean, kind of like the whole point of this video is staying lean on the lean bulk, you want to make sure that the nutrients you're eating, the calories that you have, are actually going mostly towards muscle and then we're minimizing the fat storage that we're getting in the surplus that we're already in. So you can have like two different people can have the same calorie surplus, but the nutrient partitioning is going to be a lot different. For person A, it might be way more towards muscle growth, and then for person B, still muscle growth, but a lot more fat storage that is just unnecessary. So what you want to focus on is really maximizing your insulin sensitivity. This is basically what allows muscles to absorb the nutrients and the calories that you're having. So things like eating your carbs in the post-workout meal, having the timing with your nutrition, like the macronutrient structures that we covered back in the nutrition part. This is going to optimize for nutrient partitioning. Also, getting into cardio, we'll get into this in a little bit, but having the maximum insulin sensitivity and then meal and nutrient timing with your workouts. That's why it depends on your schedule. How you want to get that in just depends on, again, when you're training, when you can eat, like certain things throughout your day. That's what I help you guys with, like in the program, really optimizing like the timing of certain things so we can optimize for this nutrient partitioning and get you the best results on the same amount of calories, same effort, same everything, just different approaches, different like biological signals, different timings. You can get a different result from that. So pretty quick one there. Then maximizing mTOR. So this is obviously you want to build muscle on the lean bulk, like that's the whole point of the bulking phase. And this is the biological muscle growth signal that we want to optimize for. So this is really optimized by number one, energy availability. I do want to make a full video on this. Like I think this is a really good topic to cover. Just it's very important to understand. But basic overview is energy availability. So getting the calories in, pretty standard right there. Mechanical tension from your training. So if you're properly training and hitting failure on all your sets, only doing like as much as needed to not overtrain, and you're actually like doing the proper training that I mentioned in the video, then you're maximizing mechanical tension, which is a big signal for mTOR. And then amino acids with a leucine threshold, hitting protein at every single meal. And there's certain foods that have better like amino acid profiles for leucine. Like whey is good for fast digesting, like quick absorbing, really good for the post-workout meal. Also, it spikes insulin as well, which actually it's like an amplifier to mTOR. So you want to pair your carbs and your proteins in the post-workout meal specifically, and then keeping the fats low to not kind of blunt that response there. And you want to make sure you're activating this in pulses. Like this is not supposed to be, mTOR is not supposed to be high all day. Like it's activated in pulses. You do want to have times where you have the AMPK difference, which is basically like the opposite of mTOR, which is, I don't want you guys to think of this as a bad thing. You just want to have like the balance with your day and like how you're timing your meals. This is why that's so important, is getting the timing correctly with your nutrition, with your training, and then optimizing your schedule around that. That's going to be the biggest difference that you can play. Again, I'm going to make a video on this, like really good, important topic to understand, but this is kind of the basic overview of this. And just understanding that the mTOR and the AMPK is not going to be like the most detrimental thing in the world, if that makes sense. And then next up is cardio. So big thing here is don't do a sedentary bulk. I used to make that mistake going back to some of the first pictures that I showed. This guy right here, I was not really doing any cardio whatsoever. Like I was just eating food, eating a ton of food, going to the gym, and then if I wasn't at the gym or eating, then I'd be pretty sedentary as well. Like not really getting steps in, not really doing any form of cardio or running. But obviously I know now that there's a better approach to this. So the cardio that you want to do is focusing on zone 2. So this does improve insulin sensitivity, going back to nutrient partitioning. As you can see, all this is pretty tied in. It's a big structure and a system that you can follow, maximizing all these different things. That's kind of like a big point I want you guys to see, is everything that works together as a system. It's not just one thing that you do. It's everything that kind of stacks on top of each other. Again, not really doing too much more effort, but just applying the correct knowledge to get the best results. So like I was saying, going for zone 2 for improved insulin sensitivity, and then 0 muscle breakdown. Again, I do have another video on zone 2 specifically, but basically just low intensity cardio, like 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. And for me personally as well, like I like to do like running, like I like to train for endurance as well. I'm training, like I have a really long-term approach for my fitness. Like in my mid to late 20s, want to do an Ironman, really big into triathlons. Like I've only done half marathons. I did one marathon like on my own as well, but I think it's a really good thing to have like for the rest of your life, like cardiovascular health. is pretty good. Kind of sounds like kind of weird to say like cardiovascular health. Used to never really care about those type of things, but just think of your fitness and like how you actually feel. Cardio is going to be a big part of this as well. Also maximizes like fat oxidation, which is still important on a lean bulk, keeping you as lean as you can in this process. And also getting steps in the day. You don't have to just do zone 2 cardio. You don't have to just do running or like treadmill work or whatever form of zone 2 that you do. You can still get steps in for more expenditure. And the more expenditure that you can get, the more food that you can basically have in the day as well, and still have like that 10% surplus that you want to follow for this process specifically. And then timing of cardio. So ideally, you want to do this spaced apart from your lifting, but that's obviously not the case for everyone. So if you do have to like pair them together in one session, I would do your lift first and then do your cardio second if needed, like if your schedule allows for it. That's why it's important to like map this out for you specifically. But yeah, if you're gonna do this in one session, just do your lift first. Make sure like that's the main priority for the muscle growth signal. You're getting the most intensity there, and then you can go into your cardio. Still pretty important. Like I would do that. If anything, just get some steps in the day. Like you don't necessarily mandatory have to do zone 2, but it is pretty good, pretty enjoyable as well. I really like to do some form of running. I think I just find it really enjoyable. And yeah, that's really it. So if you guys want to work with me one-on-one, basically giving you guys the entire systems mapped out to you specifically, like personally to you. And this is really what I'm going to do for myself as well. So I can almost guarantee I'm going to have the best lean bulk of my life. Like I know all the proper systems. This is everything I'm going to cover for myself. This is my starting point right now. Took this about a week ago. Did get a haircut recently. Kind of went short on me, but yeah, if you guys are interested in working with me, if this is something that you do want to look into, then you can schedule a call. I'll leave the link in the description, or you can message me on Instagram if you have any questions on the program, how anything works, then definitely just send me a message and I will respond to anything that you guys have. So that is really it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have anything else, like send me messages. I do like to communicate with you guys on Instagram, so feel free to send me a message with anything you guys need. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll see you guys in the next one.